I love the fact that in our last episode, we have a tradition where we have a reflection, right? We go back and we look at the year that's just passed. We're talking about takeaways, like what were our wins from the year and what were our biggest learns from the year. So I'm excited to hear from you because we haven't shared with each other what those are yet. What was your biggest win?
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business, so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
What's up, Remarkables? Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
Hey, guys, we are at the last episode of 2022, and Dr. Pete and I are having some fun here, laughing, just thinking, man, we're in like 180 something episodes. It's unbelievable. Dr. Pete, it's a good thing we're getting younger and better looking. Man, what an extraordinary journey. What a fantastic platform for us to just be doing life together with all of these awesome chiropractors. It's been an extraordinary time period. I don't know if everyone always feels like it's always an extraordinary time period, but man, what were we talking about before like 2019, like back in 2018, 2019? I wish we had the podcast going then, because I'd like to know what were we talking about, right? Because this has just been such an incredible time. Man, I love the fact that in our last episode, we have a tradition where we have a reflection, right? We go back and we look at the year that's just passed. We're talking about takeaways, like what were our wins from the year and what were our biggest learns from the year. So I'm excited to hear from you because we haven't shared with each other what those are yet. What was your biggest win in 2022 and what was your biggest learn? And of course, we're taking both of those with us into 2023.
So the phrase that comes to my mind right now is time flies when you're having fun. And I'll tell you right now, as I get to the end of this year, I'm like, man, time flies. And I'm thinking, I must be having fun. And, you know, I'm very grateful as I sit here at the end of this year and I look back and I reflect and I'm like, man, we're having fun. And we enjoy this podcast. Hopefully you enjoy listening, because if you don't, turn it off now. You know, we love the work. We love to work, but we love in particular the people we get to work with. And you know, as I reflect on, for me, if I may jump right in, thinking about, you know, the wins and the lessons, I'm going to do a win that's a professional win, but it's personal. And then I want to do a lesson that's also, it's a professional lesson learned.
Okay. Well, how about we do this? Well, we each do our wins and then we'll both do our lessons and then we can probably break it up a little bit.
So one of the visions that I always had, Dr. Stephen, you've heard me say this before, but one of the visions that I've always had is that I would be able to travel and spend more time with family. We live far away from our family, and I would love to be able to create a space and time for my children to be able to know and spend time with their grandparents and cousins. My wife, Mary, and I, we come from big families. We have a big family. So there's just a lot of people, but we want our children to actually experience it. But we've been called to live away from family. And that's a whole different conversation, but yeah, we are following our calling, as I hope all of you are as well. And part of our calling has actually called us away from people that we absolutely love and cherish. And so it has been a challenge for us for decades to how do you do that? How do you not just ignore that feeling? So it's always a commitment of mine, Dr. Stephen, that I would be able to put my family in an environment and be with them in that, where we would be able to spend extended time with family, and I could also keep moving the needle forward with the work. And this year, I had the opportunity to do that. And I'm incredibly proud because I had a vision for probably the better part of a decade to be able to see this become my reality. And I can reflect back on, it's been at least 10 years where I thought I would love for that to be part of my story. Mm-hmm. I would love to be able to say this to my children, that I intentionally lived our life, we intentionally worked, and we intentionally set our life up in such a way where even though we lived away, we were able to spend extended time with family. And for me, I would be able to continue to do the work and not miss a beat, but not miss being there. And this summer, we were able to achieve that. And I had, it was just one of the best years of my life, but I had such an incredible summer. We had such an incredible time being able to spend extended time with our family, my children, my wife, myself, being able to just really get lots of extended quality and quantity time with loved ones, with our family. And while that was happening, I was able to continue to serve my purpose as a father, as a husband, and as a coach and a leader in this organization, and continue to help move our profession forward. I didn't miss a beat, and it was so fulfilling for me, Doc. And it was a long time coming, but I'll tell you, I never lost sight of that vision. I never lost sight of that goal. It was something that was very deep inside, and it was better than I could have asked for. It's better than I could have hoped for. It was just absolutely phenomenal. There was a lot of cool things that happened even during that time of travel, and you wouldn't have known that it was even happening in my life if you were on the other side. So it was so powerful for me, Dr. Stephen, and I'm so proud of it, because it speaks to what we teach is the power of vision and your commitment to your calling and to your priorities, and making sure that you're diligent about being about the work and continuing on. And I got to experience the fruit of that in my life this year. So Doc, my big win is that's something I'm incredibly proud of as a father, as a husband, as a man, and as somebody who's fully committed to the mission and what we're doing. And so, Doc, I'd say that was probably my biggest win.
It was a win for both of us, man, because it was so nice to watch you do that. Because I've watched you wrestle that, in the past, as I'm sure you've seen it with me. It's a challenge when you're, trying to live a fully integrated life, right? So, we talk about living in alignment. We don't use the term balance around here because, we think balance is bullshit. We're trying to save the planet, right? So we want to live a fully integrated life, right? Which means that you should be able to integrate family and work and play and fun and everybody. So I think that's just a beautiful manifestation of that. And it was, I've watched you struggle and strain with that gaggle of children that you have, trying to get the work done that you want to do, you love to do, yet at the same time not compromise your ability to focus on the kids and the family and marry and just, have the remarkable life. It's not a tagline, we're living it. But the key was that this year you learned from last year, in previous years where it was a struggle, right? It was like trying to create a safe space that you could be quiet and focus and have a good internet signal and right, wouldn't be interrupted and be respectful of your clients and the content you're creating, whatever. It's that whole quagmire of how do you have your cake and eat it too, and people would roll their eyes and say, yeah, well, you can't, right? So, and you said, no, you can. You just need to plan. You need to be strategic, which is, your essence, right? So you put together a plan and you were strategic. I remember I'm like, where are you, Pete? You're like, oh, I rented a hotel room. I'm like, oh, you're not staying with your family? I'm like, oh no, my family's staying with my family. I rented a hotel room. And I'm like, that's awesome, man. That's great. It's like, yeah, I'll go home at night with all of them, but during the day, I'm just here in the hotel room and it's perfectly quiet. I have all my gear set up and ain't nobody bugging me, and it was just it was so nice to see that you were able to strategically put yourself in an environment where you could actually have your cake and eat it too, man. And I know nobody was happier about that than marrying the kids. So nice work, bro. It was a win for all of us to see you do that. So so you started with time flies while you're having fun, right? So when you're having fun. So I will tell you the truth. That's where I'm going to start my win because time does fly. Okay, and before you know it, that gaggle of kids are going to be rolling out of your house and they're going to be going off to college or to the workplace or to a spouse or whatever it is, the next chapter of your life. And you're going to go through this incredibly strange experience of, this child who's your heart walking around outside of your body is off to another residence, another city or another state or maybe even another country. And man, it's a lightning strike. My personal win this year was just watching my boy just make such a graceful departure and head off to college and just been watching the man that he's become and just recognizing and realizing that, raising a man, raising a godly man who lives an inside out life, who's really a gentleman to his sister and to his mother. And he's just I couldn't be more proud of him. it's really hard, in a world where you're just the opposite, right, of what everyone else around you seems to be doing in the direction they seem to be moving in. So it's wicked hard. So, my message is really just sharing to the parents out there, like raising these inside out kids, it's wicked hard, but it's worth it. And when you see that manifesting and you see it lived out outside of your home, it's so affirming, because you just recognize that you've given them such a gift. When you set them, on that walk, and they go walking away from your home and then they return, and you can see that they've actually matured in that journey. So I hope people find that encouraging, because as hard as it is, the reward of seeing it manifest is just extraordinary.
Man, that's so good. I would love for you just to, if it's cool, share a little bit about that story. So that happened, right, for you, but then you guys took a trip down in the fall as a family. And I think that was just such a powerful, I love how you always talk about your heart, your kids are your heart walking around outside of your body. And it's such a great just way to embrace that and understand and see that. It's so good, so accurate. But you had a chance to do something this year that I think was really, really valuable and important to you. I'd love for you just to maybe share a little bit of that, because I think that was also part of it was significant for you to be able to do that, right? With your family, specifically with Sammy and all of that. I'd love for you just to maybe share.
I think you're probably referring to Parents Weekend, going down there for the big, Liberty University versus BYU football game, which was just awesome. But it was really, in a nutshell, it was great to see him in his environment, right? So I was visiting his environment versus him growing up in our environment that we had established, and he would come back into the environment that he grew up in. It was really awesome to watch him in his new environment and who he was and how he had established himself and his circle of friends, etc., in just such an awesome environment. So I think that's probably what you're referring to. But it didn't hurt that Liberty beat up BYU, and it was an awesome football game, and we just had such a blast.
Oh, that's so good. So part two, I'm going to have you go first. Maybe I'll go second. So lessons. So we talked about, wins. And so let's talk about lessons. Doc, would you do the honors of kicking this part off? So I'd love to, as you reflect on, it's hard to imagine 12 whole months.
Yeah.
365 days, a lot of days in the morning, man, with the notepad out. So yeah.
So the lesson, I think the number one lesson I took from the year was, we scrutinized what we were going to do in 2022, which would create better outcomes for our clients, versus what we had done in 2021, versus what we had done in 2020 and 2019, et cetera. It's like every year we want to do better. And Dr. Pete, you're just like me. And the reason you and I get along so well is we're attached to outcomes. Like we just simply want better health outcomes for our clients' patients, right? So we don't, that's our purpose, is to restore health. We want better health outcomes for the patients. We want healthier businesses that are more profitable and more productive and more peaceful. We want to make sure that we've got healthy teams, we've got healthy couples, we've got healthy chiropractors, right? So we want healthy families, all the way up the line. We want to restore health. So, when we look at the outcomes of that, there are a few things that we can measure, but it's obvious to us because we have the data. We know which clients are the most successful clients, and we also, because we coach them, we have an intimate relationship with them. We know who's creating the business that supports their remarkable life, not competes with it, right? So it's like, these are not just taglines. They're like, these are the laws of the jungle around here. There are standards of excellence. Like, when we consider something being successful, it's by definition these phrases that we use, that's what we mean when we say they're successful, right? So, in auditing our previous year's performances, those 3 years, we came to a very clear conclusion. And the conclusion was it was the practices, the businesses that came to our live events, to our immersions, to those immersive experiences as a team, far and away exceeded the success of any team that either did not attend the live events and the immersions, or they did not bring their whole team. Like, it was literally that combination of things. You come to the events and you bring your team you come to the live events as a team, and you have this immersive experience where your team is not just exposed to content and our coaches and our team and leadership, but I think even more importantly, to other remarkable teams and that tribe and that community of remarkables and that interaction and that engagement. My experience through this thing is like, it was so startling to me, because I recognize there's like it's the teams that come back and come consistently to the events. Like, this goes deeper, because that first time you come to an event, it's kind of like, you're overwhelmed. There's so much content, and people are just trying to get the head around, is like, are these people all right? Are they legit? Wow, that's a lot of concept. Wow, that's new stuff. That's not how I do it. So they're kind of having that kind of sphincteric experience during their first immersion, right? And then they come back to the second immersion and they're like, okay, so I've been training, I've been studying, I've been listening. So I now know the terminology, I know the system, the process, and we've started to adopt some of it. And we've sort of Frankenstein together, we've cobbled together the TRP system with what we were doing before, right? And we're doing better. So we're starting to trust you guys, and we really like you guys, right? But, I don't know about the rest of these people around us, right? And then they come back for their third immersion, right? And it's next thing you know, it's like, I'm home. Right? I know the coaches, I know the team, I know these other players. And you know what? The other team members all know each other, and now they're bonding and they're exchanging, and I have found my tribe. So Dr. Pete, it became a very clear priority for our business that it's like, in order to get the best possible outcomes for our clients, we've got to get them in the room together. So we had to knock down all the barriers, right? So we made a pivot, we made a shift in our business model, and we just included the live events in our coaching tuition, which was such a spectacular move. Immediately our events got larger. We got more uptake, more people showed up for the live events. The event, we were almost 500 people at this last event. The energy was off the charts, right? And I know that there's a bigger investment as people come in, and we took it from 3 seats to 5 seats. So it's just like literally everything went tick, 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 tick. And the outcomes were extraordinary this year. Watching these practices that were fully engaged, were fully committed, and the results and the fruit that they got, without a doubt, that is my lesson from the year. It's the teams that show up as a team at the immersive events and lean in, trust the process, trust the system, implement, connect with the tribe, and become part of the remarkable community.
Oh man, I love this. So good. And I remember when we discussed this, I remember when we made the decision to change the model to include, I remember all the work that we went through is a tremendous amount of work from our side. If you can imagine all the things we went through to make that happen. And then now to reflect back, Doc, and see the manifestation of that vision and that conviction and the lesson that you said that was learned and then has been confirmed.
Yes.
Right. So if you were to put a red stamp at the end of this year, it'd be confirmed. Like, we absolutely confirmed that was true, because we saw the results. We continue to see the uptick in the results and the outcomes of the doctors and their teams, the clients who actually are doing that. So powerful. So that leads me into my lesson. Okay. So, Doc, you and I are learners, so we are always looking for to learn, and I seem to learn lessons almost every day. But as I reflect back on this year, and I think about the landscape of all the amazing doctors that I get to work with as a coach, all the amazing leaders and businesses that I have the honor and privilege to be invited to be a part of that journey. And it's a true privilege and honor for me. As I think about the offices, whether they're in, the stage of launch, or they're in their build stage, thick of it, or they're transitioning from building to scale, or they're in scale and they're trying to scale well, or they're scaling up, but they need more help with that, or they're going towards an exit. And all across the globe and all the offices that I get to have visibility into, and you, Doc, have the same experience. I know the one thing that I reflect on this year, I saw what is the common thread between the offices, that when I look at the numbers, when I'm reflecting on their vital signs, when I'm thinking about their business, what is the common thread between those that are succeeding, those that are actually hitting their goals, those that are experiencing victory, those that are making progress, and those that are not. And what I recognized was there was one thing that across the board that I recognized was consistent, and this was it: visibility. That the level of visibility into the business, the domain of the business, was directly proportional to the level of success in that part of their business. Now, sometimes when you go for more visibility, you get what we call the brutal facts. It's not going well. But even the fact that you are willing to look at the business truthfully and honestly and openly and say, you know what, this is not optimized. This is not going really well. Actually began the process of being able to correct the cause, to address the root cause. And so what I learned, and what my theme really is going into 2023 as a coach, working with you, and if you are listening to this and you have worked with me, you've already heard me probably share this with you, but one of the things that I have recommitted to, I'm more fully committed, is that I will not tolerate a lack of visibility in the businesses that I get to work with, because I know that any area where there's a lack of visibility, there's going to be a lack of progress, a lack of growth, and there'll be casualties along the way. And there's no reason why we should settle for that. And so as a coach, my commitment is visibility. It's not for me, it's for you, but it's for me, for you, right? So I'm for you. So that's why it's for me. So that I know that come the end of 2023, the things that we say we are going to do will happen. And the way that we say we're going to do it will happen. And I'm willing to go into the trench, get dirty, roll up the sleeves, put on the dang work boots, whatever it is, to make sure that happens for you. So that's my commitment. My commitment came out of my conviction, which came out of the intel that I have from my reflection on, and the lesson with which I take away from 2022. So I want to challenge you as you listen to my lesson to consider, even for yourself, what Dr. Stevens said about putting yourself and your team in an immersive experience. That's uncomfortable, Dr. Pete. Ain't nobody got time for that. It's expensive these days to travel, and the list goes on. We know all of it. But what is it going to cost you if you don't do it? Okay? What is the cost of not doing it? And then the second would be on mine is what area do you lack a level of visibility when you reflect on your business? And what would be the cost if you don't increase that this year? And I'm going to challenge you to immerse yourself and to create greater measures of visibility this year. And I promise you, going into this next year, a year from now, you're going to say, man, you're not going to believe it, but I did it, and here's what I can show for it. And you're going to be proud of it. So I challenge you to take the lessons that we've learned and apply them in your life.
I heard Tony Robbins say this once. I don't know if it's an original thought, but it's who I learned it from, which is success leaves clues. And so if we can model anything for you guys, we can model this a peer process, right? So what you just heard was our assessment of the past year, right? So it's assess, plan, prepare, execute, assess, repeat, right? So if you're going to learn anything from this, is just doing the exercise of stopping and looking back and assessing and saying, 2022, what a wild ride. What an incredible year. We were just so blessed, and we were blessed with so many victories, so many wins, and so many learns, right? So many challenges. And, you learn the most in the challenges, and you grow the most in those difficult moments, right? So you got to look back, and you got to ask yourself, get that journal out, get quiet, pour yourself a big cup of coffee, right? And sit back and just give it some thought before you go running into 2023 and you metabolize all those great lessons learned. Take them with you. Take them with you into 2023 and make it the best year yet. Look back and say, 2022, what a year. What an awesome year. What was my biggest win? And what was my biggest learn? Hey, Doc, let's face it, 95% of your problems are people problems. Can't find A players, can't keep A players, don't know how to leverage your team, create expectations and agreements, or hold people accountable in order to optimize your team. Doc, what would happen to your practice if you were finally able to get the right people in the right seats, doing the right work the right way? For most chiropractors, it would change everything. You'd increase your capacity to see more people. You'd make a bigger impact and a bigger income. You'd be able to delegate and scale your business. Or maybe you need to get your associate-doctor relationship dialed in. That would mean you getting your time freedom back. You could get a handle on your schedule, maybe even become a CEO. If this is what you want your 2023 to sound like, make sure that you join us for the remarkable team building immersion in Dallas, Texas, February 4th and 5th, or in Brisbane, Australia, February 24th and 25th. Man, I'm psyched to be back in Australia. Doc, bring your team with you. Get everyone on the same page. They'll be back in your office on Monday with more clarity, accountability, and purpose than ever before. Energize and mobilize your team and see your practice grow. What are your goals for 2023, Doc? Is it a 7-figure foundation, or a 7-figure revenue, or 7-figure profit, or maybe even a 7-figure exit? Regardless of what season you're in, you'll need a 7-figure team. Click the link in the show notes and register today.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.